Hello. Today I'm going to be drawing more on my YouTube channel banner. It's part 9 in a series, and I will also share with you a story of an earwig that I met that I wish I hadn't. So, uh, it was probably like 11:40 a couple months ago, and I was drinking a water bottle. Well, actually, by the time you're watching this video, like this happened in early 2023. I think it was maybe January. I may have said this before in another video, but basically, I went to get like a swig of water before I went to bed, and I was drinking, and all of a sudden I took a swig, and I was like, there's something moving in my mouth. And I didn't know what it was, and I spit it out, of course. Luckily I had a cup nearby. I mean, I still it was still awful, and I got like water everywhere, but yeah, it was awful. But apparently an earwig found its way in my water bottle straw. It was just in the straw part, so when I sucked to get a swig of water, it went in my mouth, and yeah, it was awful. And I'm still a bit scarred from that, I'm not going to lie. It was, pretty shocking. I still got him outside though, because I didn't want to kill it. It was probably just as surprised that it was landing in my mouth than I was to be, asked for it to be in my mouth. It was so bad. I still cringe and worry if that's ever going to happen again. I'm guessing it was just like a place where it felt safe. It probably shouldn't have felt safe there. Yeah, that was awful. That was just terrible. So yeah, I have earwigs occasionally. I don't know if they're beneficial. I can only assume they're beneficial. I don't know. I'll have to Google it or read a book on them or something like that. But yeah, I always wondered what their pincers are for. It didn't bite me in my mouth at all, so I don't know. Maybe all I remember is it did have an awful taste to it. I was like really weirded out by it. I don't know why it tasted so bad. Not that like I had a solid moment for it to be in my mouth, but it was awful. It was like, I still remember it. Because it's like when I took the swig, I was like, whoa, why isn't my water coming out of my straw? Then it was like, there it is. I was like, what the hell is that? Why is it moving? Yeah, that was still bad. I could still remember the awful taste too. It was just hideous. So yeah, we have some of them. They're not that fast. I feel like whenever you do encounter one, they don't really know what they're doing, or they don't really know how to like run away. As funny as that sounds, it's kind of interesting because now that I look at it, it's kind of like the body shape of the earwig is a bit like a box shape. There's like this underhang to it that kind of reminds me of like the body of a scorpion. I kind of made that a little bit too big. But yeah, it's like it has like this box-like shape that I think of like scorpions. If you ever look at like the body of a scorpion, they look more like an elongated rectangle, or more like an elongated oval, rather than like a ball, like a spider may look like. Even though scorpions and spiders are both arachnids. But yeah, I thought it would be very funny for me to write, or for me to put an earwig on my banner. It makes sense. Gotta think of every bug story that ever happened. I'll have to put bagworms on my banner at some point in time. Because a long time ago, I don't want to spoil that story, so I'm not going to say that. That's actually a pretty cool story. I had a fun time when I was a kid. I had a lot of encounters with bugs. I didn't at the time, like when I was growing up. I lived in an area that was it was the suburbs, so I know most people think there's not a lot to do out there, but I actually had friends out there, and it was like, okay, so like there's your boring suburbs. No offense to anyone like suburbs. There's your boring suburbs, and then there's like your uh, suburbs that border farmland. So, a little interesting history about myself. The area where I lived, I wanted to say my neighbor remembered when the area wasn't a suburb. So like she lived in the area. I don't even know if she's alive anymore. She was a great neighbor. I really liked her, and she was really nice. She was old back then, so sad to say, it's been a long time since then even. And she remembers the area before it was even a road, and before her house was there. It used to be just a dirt road. So, like a really old time type thing. Not a lot of people really think, like a lot of people take for granted, well, where I live, the highway system. And the highway system is a relatively new invention. I mean, not well, I know they've existed. Roads have always existed in one form or another, but it was just an area that didn't really have a lot of, it didn't have a lot of traffic. It just, it was kind of up and coming, and I believe it wasn't until the 50s until they started really building it out. So I think she was like a little girl in the 50s when they were starting to build it out and whatnot. So yeah, it was really interesting. So the area was on the border of a lot of farmland. I mean, I'm pretty sure our area was, actually no, probably our area wasn't farmland because it was like built on a hill. So it was really interesting, but we were really close to farmland. Like all we had to do was walk down the road, and there was actually still a farm there, as I recall. Well, I mean, from like over 10 years ago. But yeah, there was like a farm there, and there were like cows and horses, and it was really cool to see, because frequently I would walk with my friends down to that area, and it's like, whoa, there's a suburb, and like there's the country. It was like right on the border. I found it really, really interesting. I know a lot of other people won't find that interesting. See, the funny thing is, eventually my family ended up moving to the city about the time when I was a teenager. So it was a bit of a shock to me. I thought things were a little bit more convenient, but the thing was, like, I wasn't really like when people say like this city is convenient, I mean only if you're like consuming stuff all the time. But like at the time, I thought the city was a bit boring. I did find it fun because I was always able to find friends, and like friends weren't too far away. But I do recall I did kind of miss seeing nature, because pretty much trading, like I had a pretty private backyard when I was in like the suburb country area, and pretty much what I had in the city was a parking lot was my backyard. So it was a bit of a shock, and it was like, oh man, and there was a guy that like would always, I don't know what he was doing, but like he would always be there. He would like always, there was really suspicious stuff going down. He would like come at around midnight and 3 a.m. and he would go through our alleyway, and he owned like a garage back there, and and he would and I don't know what he would do. I guess he would store stuff there, but he would only open the garage a crack, and he like put his car in front of it. And like one day out of curiosity, it's like, I want to see what this guy's doing. So I took a peek, and it was like filled with like, his garage was filled with a bunch of his garage was filled with like a bunch of, it looked like a bunch of like power tools and like home goods and like dishwashers, like in their original box. And I was like, whoa. I think he did see me, and after that he like shut his door. and drove off. So like I was like, whoa, that's pretty interesting. And now that I think about it, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to make any assumptions. There was I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions. Maybe he got it. I want to assume I want to give the benefit of the doubt and just assume that it wasn't what we're all thinking it was. Oh yeah, but it did kind of make me mad because I got like no sleep because he would always wake me up. I eventually did get used to it, and I just started sleeping with my headphones in. So like that was kind of a bit of a benefit. I did kind of learn. The other thing was when you're living in the city, one thing like a lot of people get used to. A lot of people get used to hearing all the noises. I was not. Like the thing was, the apartments were like in the back of the house, but you would still hear the buses coming down from the front of the house because like we were on a main bus line, so they would always there was a bus stop at the top of our street, so you would always hear it. You would always hear the bus barreling down the street. I would always hear that guy. I think my freshman year was the worst because our neighbors below us, they had a young kid, and their mom was a doctor, so I felt bad for the kid because he had separation anxiety, so he would always be like crying in the middle of the night for his mom, but like his mom was at work, so it's like I didn't sleep at all because I just heard this kid screaming his head off all the time. So I didn't sleep. I have to say, I will say I didn't sleep for like yeah, like an entire year of high school. I lived I lived in an exhausted state, and I pretty much just showed up to school dead tired, and yeah. And I didn't find it so convenient because I walked to school, but I had to walk like a mile, and yeah, it was really stupid. I definitely had to walk the farthest I felt at the time because I just lived so far away. Um, so yeah, the city's convenient, but at the expense of you do a lot more walking. I didn't mind it. I think at the time I was not in the best of shape. Uh, I didn't really understand the benefits of having an exercise routine. So I think it did a lot of good to me because I learned more about it. I kind of learned why I was out of breath all the time, and I established an exercise routine for myself. And eventually, I didn't struggle with it. I was never like, um, I didn't eat the best, but I wasn't like, I didn't have any weight problems or anything like that. But it was more just my cardiovascular. I really lacked endurance, so I was able to fix that. And ever since then, I pretty much got like a bit obsessed with health. I'm always trying to be wary of that more now than ever. Funny enough, when I when I got an official like office job after college and all that, I realized, you know, at first before the pandy occurred, um, I was just sitting in a chair for like usually 9 to 5, sometimes over that. Well, usually, to be honest, I actually worked 8 to 4. I was allowed to when I started out. The reason why I did that is because I realized that I worked most efficiently in the morning, and then it was great because I arrived early, so I missed the main commute traffic, and then I left early to avoid the 5 o'clock rush. So that was awesome. Where was I going with this? Wow, I totally lost my track. Okay, so like, oh yeah, so living in the city, it was a bit of a shock because it's like we lacked, nature. I would say we did get houseplants and all that, but you know, to a certain extent, it was a bit shocking not to have even like a garden or anything like that. Um, you know, I think having some type of space where you can kind of connect with nature is extremely important. And for myself to just have to acclimate to, concrete being everywhere, hearing planes, trains, city buses, cars. You heard everything. Oh, it didn't help that there was also a school in the back of, like, it wasn't behind the apartments, but it was like a little bit further than that. So if I if I ever did have, well, I mean, more often than not, I was in school, but there was a playground, and it's just the kids screaming. So it was like, if I ever did have a day in which I was able to sleep in, it was interrupted by kids screaming. They were it was my wake up call too, and it was so annoying. It was so annoying. So yeah, it was a much different life. I no longer live in the city. I actually kind of liked it. It's kind of weird to say. I have to say, I think the big thing I liked was being able to walk to friends. They were all relatively close at the time, so it wasn't too big of an issue. Uh, you know, I think like I tried to sell stuff all the time. I know it sounds really bad. I did a lot of like dumpster diving. Um, I did a lot of dumpster diving, and like during garbage day, I would like find stuff to sell. Like, little history fact about me. But I did it with friends too, so that actually kind of made it pretty fun. Um, it's so weird. Yeah, it was really. It was much different being in the city. I mean, the good news was there were parks nearby, but it was kind of weird because I would go with my friends to the parks quite frequently. Um, but more often than not, we would just go to their house and play video games, which those were awesome days. It was definitely fun to, just do that after school. Um, it was like, just to be around people was really fun. You don't appreciate that. You don't really appreciate days like that until you live through a global pandy and you have to pretty much isolate for years. Oh, that was not fun. Oh. But yeah, those days. Yeah, but the city, I don't know, convenience for it. I think one time, like, I did get a delivery, and I had to go pick it up at the post office. And there was no parking. I didn't even have a car at the time. There was no parking at the post office, so like I carried a package, like almost 2 miles. Oh, that was not fun. I still remember that. And it was an awkward box too, so I had to like take breaks. Oh man, those were not the days. Um, yeah. So yeah, the city, it had nature, and you just had to go to the park to really see it. Um, I did walk my dog a lot at the time, and that was pretty fun. But there was nature, but it was just like it was interesting to get a full perspective of city life versus being where I was before. And the thing is, where I live now, it's an area that's like, it's just a suburb. Not a big fan of it. It's quite not the most enjoyable. I'm far away from friends. I hope to get out eventually, but there's some economic factors that are preventing me. But it's kind of like an area that's isolated, boring. Not a big fan of it. Not a lot to do. So it is a bit sad. Not sad, but just like, something that I feel when it comes to city, like, to go from the suburb country to the city to the suburbs. It's really stupid. I mean, I do have a little bit of a backyard now where I could go, but it's still, it wasn't like when I was growing up, in which like you had a really, really private backyard. But yeah, I guess maybe I took it for granted. But interesting ways to live. Yeah. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you ever had interesting, weird living arrangements. It's always interesting to hear people's thoughts on those. you know, I feel like people either really love an area or really hate an area. And I have to say, there were some times when I lived originally in like the suburb country area, and I thought that I wanted to go to a different type of area. Because like I used to have friends in different areas around me, and it was like the fact that I couldn't be near them, it was extremely frustrating, and I felt like I was isolated in the suburb country. But it wasn't. But the funny thing was, I don't know why. I think eventually I ended up kind of having like a falling out with kids in another area, and then I was very happy to be in the suburb country area, and I was kind of happy to be away from the area over there. So yeah, it was very interesting. I had a very interesting perspective. Maybe I'm just calling my own perspective interesting. I don't know. I found it an interesting lifestyle. To pretty much go from an area that I hate with a passion to change it to a view in which, hey, I actually like this area, and I was able to reconnect with friends who I had around me all the time. But once I moved to the city, I didn't really, I really couldn't go back home to that other area. So it was kind of like a bit of a shock, but that's just life. It happens. People move, and they have to kind of move on as much as you don't want to. But yeah, city was interesting. So many buses, like you would always hear the buses barreling down the street because like they hit every pothole, and it's like boom, boom, boom. Don't even get me started on like the snow plows, because then that was even more extra traffic, and so many memories. But I don't know where I'll go. Always hard for me to say. I'm just happy to draw these days, let alone think about where I would go. But yeah, like I said, let me know if you have any interesting living arrangement stories. I mean, I'm just happy I never starved. I mean, I never starved. I was, it was good, but, let me know in the comments if you have that. Well, at this point, I have our little earwig buddy. I didn't get a chance to take a picture of that other earwig that I saw a long time ago, because I was more concerned with getting him out. If I didn't say this before, I spit him out in a coffee cup. Luckily, I had a coffee cup near me. I mean, like I said, I still got spit all on the ground just because I got in the coffee cup. Not to be gross about it. But yeah, I got him outside at like midnight, 11:40 midnight. But okay, yeah, thanks for sticking around, and I'm happy to tell you this story of our little earwig buddy. I think next time I'll tell you a story about silkworms in the area that I grew up in. That's a really cool story. I found them really interesting. They're probably invasive, but I don't want to spoil any more of that story. So yeah, thank you for sticking around for this part 9 of my banner. Many more bug stories to tell. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. If you like my video, please like it. If you like my channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching and listening. Bye.